You kids don't deserve it, my husband announced, voice booming through the reunion hall as if he owned not just the microphone, but every soul listening. Laughter followed. My cousins raised their glasses. My aunt nodded like she'd been waiting years for this moment. Only I stayed still. Hi everyone. My name is Clara Vance and this is the moment my husband thought he won. The farm he was bragging about wasn't his. It was my grandmother's. A woman who taught me that silence can be sharper than any blade. He'd always mocked me for being too sentimental about the place. Said I saw ghosts where there was just dirt and wood. Maybe he was right, but I also saw history, promises, and the echo of every sunrise my grandmother prayed through. So when he said he was selling it, something inside me stopped moving. The music kept playing, people kept talking, but all I heard was the crack of the fire she used to build in the old kitchen, the smell of rain through broken windows. He grinned at me across the table. Don't look so shocked, honey. It's all in my name anyway. The words burned through me hot and clean. I tilted my head calm. Did you check who's listed on the current deed? He laughed, loud and confident. Of course. It's in my name. The whole room turned to watch. I reached into my bag, slow, deliberate, and handed him a folded paper from the county office. His fingers trembled when he saw the seal. It wasn't. And for the first time I saw something rare in his eyes. Not anger, not arrogance, but fear. The silence after he read that paper was heavy, like a thundercloud that couldn't decide when to break. His smirk faltered just a fraction before he caught himself. This must be a mistake, he muttered, forcing a laugh, his voice cracking beneath the weight of it. My uncle coughed. My aunt looked at me, then at him. The cousins who'd laughed earlier suddenly found their drinks fascinating. I updated the deed 6 months ago, I said quietly. After Grandma passed. He blinked. Without telling me? Without needing to, I replied. He stood there, gripping that paper so tight his knuckles turned white. You think you can just... I didn't think. I cut him off, my tone calm, almost gentle. I followed Grandma's wishes. The farm stays in the family. My side of it. The air shifted. Someone turned down the music. My father's old photograph hung above the fireplace, watching like judgment itself. My husband set the paper down, trying to steady his voice. You'll regret this, Clara. I smiled faintly. I already did. The day I married you. Gasps rippled through the room. My sister mouthed my name like I'd just shattered glass with my bare hands. But I wasn't done, not yet. I'd spent years letting him humiliate me in front of these same people, mocking my little sentimental projects, calling me the quiet wife with no ambition. Tonight, silence finally became my weapon. He walked out of the room, shoulders stiff, whispers chasing him like shadows. I stayed seated, tracing my grandmother's ring with my thumb. The band was worn smooth, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Outside, I could see the old farm's porch light glowing faintly through the window. It felt like Grandma was still there, smiling. When we got home that night, the house felt smaller. Even the air between us seemed thinner, sharper. He slammed the front door, his laughter from the reunion replaced by silence that screamed louder than any argument. You humiliated me, he said finally, his voice low. In front of my family. I turned off my earrings one by one, calm as a surgeon. No, I said softly. You humiliated yourself. He paced the floor, rubbing his temples. Do you have any idea what that place is worth? Enough to expose what you really married me for, I whispered. His eyes darted up, anger then realization. You think you're smarter than me, Clara? No, I said, meeting his gaze. Just quieter. He stormed out to the porch, the sound of gravel crunching under his shoes fading into the night. I stood by the window watching him make a call. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the tone, that mix of control and panic. The same tone he used when he thought he still owned me. Inside, I took the county records from my bag and placed them in Grandma's old recipe box. It felt symbolic, her legacy staying safe in the same hands that once held her bread dough and letters. I sat down with a pen and began writing. Not a confession, a preparation. Every account, every property, every email login he'd ever tried to hide. I already had copies. He thought tonight ended his control. But it was only the beginning of mine. Outside, a storm rolled over the fields, thunder crawling closer, quiet, steady, unstoppable. By morning he pretended nothing happened. The scent of his cologne filled the kitchen as he buttered toast like a man rehearsing normalcy. "Coffee?" he asked, smiling too politely. I nodded, studying him. "You didn't sleep." He didn't respond. He'd always underestimated my silence, assumed quiet meant weak. What he never realized was that I'd learned that silence from Grandma, the woman who could disarm anyone with a pause and a stare. That day while he left for work, I opened the office drawer he thought I'd never touch. Inside, an envelope. Labeled, Farm Equity Loan. My heart didn't race, it sank. He had borrowed against the land, the one thing he thought he owned, months before Grandma died. Without my signature. Without my knowledge. I read every line, every forged signature. My name written wrong, slanted, foreign. I took photos of each page and emailed them to myself. Then another copy to a secure drive. It wasn't about revenge yet, it was about protection. But when I found a draft email he never sent, addressed to a real estate partner, about a quick sale before she finds out, that's when the calm cracked. He came home late that evening, smelling of whiskey and rain. "You've been quiet," he said. "Just thinking," I replied. "About what?" "About what a man signs when he's desperate." He froze. His eyes flicked toward the office door. He knew. And I smiled, not cruelly but with the kind of peace that only truth can bring. In that silence something shifted permanently. He no longer saw me as his wife. He saw me as the threat he created. He started pretending again. Morning coffee, polite smiles, shallow jokes about the weather. But every move he made had an edge now. He'd begun checking my phone when he thought I wasn't looking, locking his office door, deleting messages faster than usual. I didn't confront him. I waited. Patience was my new language. That weekend he suggested we host a family dinner. I almost laughed. He wanted to prove he was still in control, that the man who lost the farm could still charm his audience. "Sure," I said, stirring my tea. "Invite everyone." The night of the dinner I wore Grandma's pearl earrings. The ones he said made me look too old-fashioned. He arrived with wine and his fake smile, greeting guests like a politician begging for applause. Midway through he stood and clinked his glass. "I just want to say," he began, "marriage is about forgiveness. And sometimes mistakes." "Like forging signatures?" I asked quietly. The room froze. His hand shook, the glass tipping slightly. "Excuse me." I turned my phone around, displaying a photo of the forged loan documents. The projector behind me, connected to my laptop, lit up the room with every single page. People gasped. His own brother muttered, "Jesus, Mark." He tried to lunge for the laptop but I stepped back. "Careful," I said softly. "It's backed up in 4 places." No one moved. No one spoke. He finally looked at me, eyes red, breathing heavy, and whispered, "You planned this." I smiled faintly. "No. You wrote it." I just let it unfold. And in that moment he knew his control was gone. By Monday morning, everything he'd built on lies began to crumble. The bank froze his accounts. His partners stopped answering calls. Even his boss, who once called him indispensable, sent a one-line email. "We're terminating your contract, effective immediately." I didn't celebrate. I just watched. Quietly. He spent days pacing the house, muttering under his breath, blaming everyone but himself. "They're all jealous," he hissed once, slamming his fist on the table. "You turned them against me." "I didn't have to," I said. "You did that by being exactly who you are." He glared at me like a stranger looking for someone else to hurt. But I wasn't that woman anymore. The calls kept coming, from lawyers, debt collectors, and relatives who suddenly remembered how he'd mocked them over dinner tables for years. He started sleeping on the couch, too proud to leave, too afraid to face the world outside. I found him one evening on the porch, staring at the old deed in his hand. The same one that once gave him power. "I just wanted respect," he whispered. "Respect isn't taken," I said softly. "It's earned." He looked up, eyes hollow. "What are you going to do with the farm now?" "Rebuild it," I answered. But this time with honesty. He nodded, defeated. No more arrogance. Just silence and the sound of rain against the wood, the same sound Grandma loved. The next morning he was gone. His car, his suits, his ring, all left behind. I stood in the doorway, breathing in the stillness. It felt like the first sunrise after a long storm. The drive back to the farm was quiet. Just me, the hum of the road, and the soft creak of Grandma's old keychains swinging from the ignition. The fields were golden again, overgrown but alive. It smelled like earth and rain, like forgiveness. I parked beside the porch. The same one where she used to shell peas and hum hymns no one else remembered. For a long time I just stood there watching dust dance in the sunlight. Every scar the house carried told a story. Chipped paint, uneven floors, the faint mark where Grandpa's boots had worn down the steps. I touched the railing and whispered, "I'm home." Inside I found the kitchen exactly as I'd left it. Her framed photograph, the recipe box now holding my papers. Proof that truth can survive deceit. I began restoring things slowly. New curtains. Fresh paint. Letters to the county to reopen the local farmers' fund. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about restoring what greed had tried to erase. Sometimes at dusk I'd sit on the porch and watch the light fade over the fields. The quiet no longer felt lonely. It felt earned. Then one afternoon an envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name written in his handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the title to the car signed over to me. And a note beneath it. "You won. Take care of what I couldn't." I stared at it for a long time. No anger. No satisfaction. Just closure. The farm was mine, but more than that I was mine again. Autumn came early that year. The leaves around the farmhouse turned copper and gold, brushing against the window like old memories. I'd finished the renovations. The walls no longer whispered of what he took but what I reclaimed. Neighbors began to visit again. One of them, Mrs. Dillard, brought fresh bread and said softly, "Your grandmother would be proud." I smiled, not trusting my voice enough to answer. I kept her photograph by the window, the one with her standing in that same porch light holding me as a child. For the first time in years I could look at it without tears. Only gratitude. One evening I drove into town to meet the notary. He handed me a thick envelope. Inside were the final legal documents. Proof that the farm, the land, and every remaining asset were now in my name, free of all debt and liens. I signed where he pointed, each pen stroke feeling like an exhale years overdue. When I walked outside, the sun was setting over the hills. The sky burned in shades of orange and rose, the same colors Grandma used to call God's apology for the long days. I stopped by the gate, ran my hand over the wooden post and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me that silence isn't weakness. It's patience." As I turned toward the house, the porch light flickered on, automatic but perfectly timed. I smiled. The same house that once held betrayal now held peace. The same woman who once begged to be heard now spoke through every beam, every blade of grass, every page of truth she refused to burn. And for the first time, I felt free.